What's up, everybody? What's up? Welcome to the daily live stream. Hit that like button as you come in. Be interactive in the chat. Say where you guys are watching from. All right, I got clips for us to watch tonight so we can react to them Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So shout out to you guys. Happy Wednesday, and let's get right into the clips.
PLC Construction completed a tenant improvement in Bolingbrook, Illinois at a $189,130.
The truth about the artist Bad Bunny, the one who was selected personally by Jay-Z to perform at the Super Bowl, and the same person that just won a Grammy, is finally getting exposed, okay? Because hidden behind his music and his innocent gesture that he gives off, telling people about love and how we should all get along, is actually a very demonic person that has been selected by Hollywood and the elites to do their task, okay? And I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about. All right, this guy is not just a singer that came up and worked his way to the top. He was selected just like all of the other ones was for a specific reason. All right, let's hop in this video, watch it, and react to it. Before we do me a quick favor. Hit that like button for the algorithm so that this video can reach more people like yourself. I truly appreciate you guys. Let's hop in.
Video is for all the people that won Bad Bunny in the Super Bowl. Let me show you guys a video. If that wasn't enough, let me show you guys another one. Last but not least.
Now let me do one that's gonna blow your mind. The Bible. The Bible is a girl.
Why is the Bible a girl?
Because it's beautiful.
Yes, and also because the Bible, everything you want to do, it's saying no.
I think that the fact that we are tolerating this demonic behavior in a stage where millions and millions of people are going to watch it is unacceptable. There's going to be kids, there's going to be teens watching this, there's going to be young people, extremely easy to influence watching this type of video, listening to this music. Unacceptable.
This is not the first time that we've seen an artist climb to the top of the charts out of nowhere and get put into certain situations and positions. And a lot of people are questioning, who is this person? Where did he come from? Even though he has a fan base, obviously. But it's very easy to see that he was put here by the Hollywood elites. Okay. And the reason why is because he portrays what they want. Okay. A lot of the debauchery that is spoken of in the Bible, that the Bible condemns, he's a part of it. He didn't climb to the top of the charts and put in these positions based off of hard work and perseverance only, okay? We've heard from many different people in Hollywood say that there's more that you have to do. You have to give allegiance to these people, these executives, these elites, in order to get put in these positions. And that's exactly what he's done. And it's evident when you see his music videos, when you hear his music, and when you see what he's putting out and how he's mocking God and the stuff that he does, okay? Let's hop into this video. Let's check this out.
This is Bad Bunny. This is who they're giving you for the Super Bowl halftime show this year. But I'm not shocked. Did you know that Jay-Z's Rock Nation does the selection for the halftime shows? That's why you're getting Bad Bunny, because they want to woke America. This is what the world does. It celebrates sin, it mocks purity, and it calls the darkness light. As a Christian, I will not support it. Why? Because we're not supposed to soak in entertainment that will drag us away from God. Ephesians 5:11 says, have nothing to do with the fruitless works of darkness, but expose them. Don't clap for it. Call it out. Truth is, the Super Bowl halftime has turned more into a ritual of glorifying rebellion than anything else. But that's the world. It's blind, it's broken, and it's headed for destruction. I won't be shocked when Bad Bunny's performance is full of filth. However, I am shocked when Christians see it and they shrug it away like it's no big deal. The world is going to act like the world, but the church, we're called to be different. We're called to shine brighter. We are called to stand apart. Don't just consume culture. Confront it. And then keep yourself and your children away from watching it.
I agree with everything that he said. And I also appreciate how he said to not only just to not participate, but also to expose the darkness, because we have to do that as Christians for other people in their eyes, in their hearts, to be open towards the truth in Jesus Christ. Okay. Because there are going to be people, even Christians, but also people that don't believe in God, that are going to watch this, that are supporting this. But then when they hear somebody like us speaking out against this, it may change their perspective and even get them interested in God, okay, in the Bible, if they are not already Christians. All right, let's look at this one. And then I'm going to show you somebody who is a Christian, who was lost in Bad Bunny's music, that got caught up into it, and she eventually got out of it because she heard the truth about it. Okay, let's check this out.
You didn't understand what I just said. You have 4 months to learn.
Yeah, we have 4 months to learn about you. Look at him. It's Bad Bunny.
I want to just give y'all a warning. There's going to be some nasty stuff in this. Okay, so if you don't want to see this one, you can kind of skip over it. But it's some debauchery being shown. But really, it's good that we show it because it's the truth about what's taking place. It's the truth about who he is, and that they're putting this person in front of all of our children and families during the Super Bowl halftime. Okay, let's finish this.
And we also know you are with Puff Daddy. Puff Daddy? Bro, look here. This is... And we also know that you sold out.
Guy, real quick. Yeah, just like a powerful eye to see everything.
Yeah, we can see everything. Watch here. Here. Bro, he kissed a guy. And we also know that your concerts are fully demonic. Watch this. It's so demonic, bro. This is where they want him to perform on NFL. And look here. It's just in front of us. And don't forget to share, because every American needs to watch this.
As I just said before, based off of his activity, he's obviously going to get the call, right? He's going to get the offer. Hey, do you want to be a part of what we're doing? Do you want to get pushed into the top charts? Do you want to do these performances? Well, you got to do this. And he already, in his music, I don't know his earlier music, but from what we're seeing today, it looks like this is what he already indulges in. So it's very easy. It's very easy for them to choose him to be the front runner, the next person up for their demonic, dark stuff. Okay. Now listen to this person right here. She's going to talk about how she used to be deceived by the music, by Bad Bunny, and why she supported him. And her eyes were open to the truth. And now she sees just how dark and demonic his music is. Okay, let's check it out.
You still listen to Bad Bunny if you're a Christian and you got baptized. And I'm like, well, because I love him. What do you mean? And he's like, yeah, but he has the devil sitting behind him in the music video, Yo Pero Sola. And I'm like, really? I end up literally looking up the video right there as I'm talking to him. And I'm like, oh. I didn't even know what to say, y'all. It was like a veil removed from my eyes when I just realized, like, I really love this dude so much. When in reality, like, they're mocking my God, going against what the living word calls us to do. That was the day the veil was removed from my eyes. Within a week, y'all, like, I just felt convicted every time a song would be played, that I was like, all right, I'm giving this up. It is pointless to listen to this music when it's jeopardizing my relationship with Christ, because when I listen to it, it makes me want to do unrighteous things.
Calling this stuff out is effective. It's proven to be effective. It's proven that some people are going to hear it and their ears are going to be closed to the truth. But there's going to be a select few that hear it and their ears will be open to it. And their eyes will be open to see the truth. And they're going to say, I don't want any part of that. There's a lot of Christians, okay? Christians today, by the grace of God, I pray that they would dive deeper into Christ. But there's Christians right now that are living a lukewarm lifestyle, who claim to be in allegiance to Jesus Christ, But if you look at their life, it does not show that. It shows that their allegiance is to the world. And that's why we have to make these videos, to open the eyes of everybody, so that we pray that some will hear it and receive the truth. This is what I'm talking about, double-mindedness. This is what I mean when I say there are secret people who may claim some type of allegiance to God, but in reality, their hearts are not pointed towards God. It's towards the world and darkness, and it needs to be exposed. Okay, let me show you all this.
Could your portfolios work harder? Maybe it's time to explore alternative investments. You're invited to join Phoenix Energy.
Jesus' speech was sandwiched between Bad Bunny's Ice Out speech, and Lady Gaga's performance was wild. Bad Bunny won the award for Best Música Urbana album. In his speech, he began by acknowledging what's going on in our country with ICE, saying Ice Out, and went on to give a really beautiful message about love versus hate.
We're not savage, we're not animals, we're not aliens, we are humans, and we are Americans.
Right after Jelly Roll won the Grammy for Best Country Album of the Year, he followed with a very loud speech about Jesus.
Jesus is for everybody. Jesus is not owned by one political party. Jesus is not owned by no music label. Jesus is Jesus, and anybody can have a relationship with him. I love you, Lord.
Which is fine. I do think, though, since he loves Jesus so much, that I wish he would talk to his friends about Jesus and what his teachings actually were about.
So she said that she wished Jelly Roll would have spoke about what Jesus's teachings actually were about. And let me show you guys, if you're not informed, what Jesus's teachings are actually about. This is Revelations chapter 21, and this is John talking, and he's talking about what he heard from Jesus. He said to me, "It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty, I will give water without cost from the spring of the water of life. Those who are victorious will inherit all this, and I will be their God, and they will be my children. But the cowardly, the unbelieving, the vile, the murderers, the sexually immoral, those who practice magic arts, the idolaters, and all liars, they will be consigned to the fiery lake of burning sulfur. This is the second death." The things that he's describing about the people that practice these lifestyles, not saying someone that committed something one time and repented, someone who has a practicing life of these things are not going to inherit the kingdom of heaven. That's what Jesus came to talk about, and how you could attain salvation, obviously through faith in him. And then when you have true faith in Christ, you no longer desire to do these things. They don't rule over you. You actually have a desire to follow Christ, even though we're still in a fallen world. That is what Jesus's teachings were actually about.
We all know Jelly Roll is a convicted felon, so we know he didn't vote, but personally, I feel like it's obvious who he would have voted for if he could have. Immediately following his speech, Lady Gaga gave the performance of the year. And I absolutely love how she gave us full satanic ritual realness right after that mega church vibe speech. We really needed that as kind of like a cleanse. And then right after, she actually won Best Pop Vocal Album. So thank you, Lady Gaga.
We already know that the Bible warns us about what's going to take place in the last days. People are going to go deceiving and being deceived, which is taking place, which is what this is doing. And Paul also tells Timothy about how people will behave in the last days. It says, "You should know this, Timothy, that in the last days there will be very difficult times, for people will love only themselves and their money. They will be boastful and proud, scoffing at God, disobedient to their parents, and ungrateful. They will consider nothing sacred. They will be unloving and unforgiving. They will slander others and have no self-control. They will be cruel and hate what is good." We're seeing all of this on display right now. Okay, it says they will betray their friends, be reckless, be puffed up with pride, and love pleasure rather than God. They will act religious, what we just saw in that video, and other many videos of people that claim to know God, but secretly they have no faith in Christ. But they will reject the power that can make them godly. Stay away from people like that. Bad Bunny absolutely needs to repent for the things that he's done, for mocking God, for the stuff that he's putting out in front of the people. And he needs to understand that life is temporary, and selling your soul to Hollywood and these elites does not give you everlasting life. In fact, Satan is not going to give you these things, and you can just take them without giving him something in return. And when I say that, I mean, he's going to give you these, but in the end, you are going to have the same result as Satan. That's having a position in a lake of fire for choosing to follow your worldly passions and reject God completely. But there is hope for all of us, and that hope is in Jesus Christ, turning from our sin, turning from these lifestyles, repenting, and putting our faith in Jesus Christ and following him and learning from Jesus the right way by what the Bible actually says, not by people that are going to tell you false things about the Bible, false scriptures, interpreting scriptures in a way that's going to lead you astray. All right, look, let me know how you guys feel about this video in the comment section, okay? If you're new to the channel and you like what you see, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button and hit the post notification bell so you do not miss another video. I post tons of videos about things happening in the faith and current events, and all of my videos come with a Christian perspective. My name is Aaron Page. I'll catch y'all on the next video. Until next time, I'm out.
We are with you in spirit for this devastating loss, and we thank you for being here today. And I recognize you now for your remarks.
Thank you, Ranking Member Blumenthal.
All right, next clip we got up is Renee Goods' family. They are in front of Congress. They are making their statements. This is where Renee Good gets to be humanized, so let's take a listen.
And Ranking Member Garcia, and distinguished members of Congress. My name is Luke Ganger, and I'm here with my brother Brent. Renee Good is our sister. We're here on behalf of Nay's big family and those who loved her. We're here to ask for your help. I was talking to my 4-year-old last week when she noticed I was not doing well. I had to come here today and talk to some important people. She knows that her aunt died and that somebody caused it to happen.
Make lunch with me while I tell you all the things I do not do with my money and why you might be struggling because of that. The first thing that
She told me that there are no bad people and that everyone makes mistakes. She has Nay's spirit. The deep distress our family feels because of Nay's loss is in such a violent and unnecessary way is complicated by feelings of disbelief, distress, and desperation for change. In the last few weeks, our family took some consolation, thinking that perhaps Nay's death would bring about change in our country, and it has not. The completely surreal scenes taking place on the streets of Minneapolis are beyond explanation. This is not just a bad day or a rough week or isolated incidents. These encounters with federal agents are changing the community and changing many lives, including ours, forever. And I still don't know how to explain to my 4-year-old what these agents are doing when we pass by. Our family is deeply grateful for the outpouring of love and support from the community in Minneapolis and from people across the country and around the world. The prayers and words of support have truly brought us comfort, and it is meaningful that these sentiments have come from people of all colors, faiths, and ideals. That is a perfect reflection of Renee, who carried peace, patience, and love for others wherever she went. Our family is a very American blend. We vote differently, and we rarely completely agree on the finer details of what it means to be a citizen of this country. We attend various churches and some not at all. And despite those differences, we have always treated each other with love and respect. And we've gotten even closer during this very divided time in our country. And we hope that our family can be even a small example to others, not to let political ideals divide us, to be good, like Renee. But the most important thing we can do today is to help this panel and our country understand who Renee is and what a beautiful American we have lost. A sister, a daughter, mother, a partner, and a friend. Good afternoon. My name is Brent Ganger, and I'd like to share some thoughts from the eulogy that I gave on my sister's behalf this past Saturday. When I think of Renee, I think of dandelions and sunlight. Dandelions don't ask permission to grow. They push through cracks in the sidewalk, through hard soil, through places where you don't expect beauty, and suddenly there they are, bright, alive. Unapologetically hopeful. That was Renee. And sunlight, warm, steady, life-giving, because when she walked in a room, things felt lighter, even on cloudy days. Renee had a way of showing up in the world that made you believe things were going to be okay. Not because she ignored the hardship, but because she chose optimism anyway. She chose to look for what was good, what was possible, and what was worth loving. Renee loved fiercely, openly, and without hesitation. As a mother, Renee poured herself into love. The kind of love that shows up every day, that sacrifices quietly, that cheers loudly, that believes deeply. Her children were and are her heart.
When the doors closed last time, people went nuts. By popular demand, we are opening the doors up again to join our AI Amplifier Club for $1. Yes, $1. And we're going to donate that $1 to Feeding America. Let me tell you real quick what the AI Amplifier Club is. This is the #1 community on the planet to learn AI, to go from confused and overwhelmed to confident and secure, to get reviews and training and prompts and a monthly live training with a professional, with weekly trainings from our partner, Igor Pagani. Tony and I have 76 years in business and helping people succeed. Igor, we believe, is the top AI educator, and we combined forces. We partnered. So now you get the best of both worlds in one community. This guy knows how to take really complicated stuff and make it pragmatic and practical. And you have the opportunity to get instant wins, instant playbooks.
Walking around outside her body. And she made sure they felt safe, valued, and endlessly loved. As a sister, she was constant. Someone you could lean on, laugh with, or just sit in silence beside. She had a way of making you feel understood, even when you didn't have the words yet. She didn't just listen, she saw you. She believed in second chances. She believed tomorrow could be better than today. She believed that kindness mattered, and she lived that belief. Even when things were hard, Renee looked for the light. And if she couldn't find it, she became the light for somebody else.
It was the excessively ordinary things that made Nay so beautiful. There are billions of people who now know her name, and it would be so easy to fall into the false belief that great heroic things are required to overcome difficult things in the world. But as Tolkien wrote, it is the small, everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keep the darkness at bay. Small acts of kindness and love. That's why the image of dandelions feels so right. People try to pull them up, overlook them, dismiss them, but they keep coming back, stronger, brighter, spreading seeds of hope everywhere they land. Renee planted those seeds in all of us. In her children, in her family, in friends, coworkers, and people who maybe didn't even realize they needed her light at the time. And sunlight. Sunlight doesn't ask for recognition. It just gives. It warms, it nurtures, it helps things grow. Renee did that for us. She helped us grow. She helped us believe in ourselves. She helped us see the good, even when life felt heavy. Renee is not gone from us. She's in the light that finds us on hard days. She's in the resilience we didn't know we had until we needed it. She's in the laughter, the memories, the love that continues to grow. Like dandelions, like sunlight, and like Renee. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent and Luke, for that really powerful appeal to the nation's conscience. And I hope to our colleagues on both sides of the aisle, and I hope that all of our colleagues will join in seeking the action that you just described that is so important, not just as a tribute to your sister, but as a way to prevent the kind of lawless brutality that caused her death.
You always wondered why that app didn't exist. Now you can make it. Meet Replit Agent. Want a custom workout plan? Make it.
By now, you've probably seen this video from Minneapolis, a woman being dragged from her car while driving through a protest against President Trump's immigration crackdown. She was arrested 2 blocks from where an ICE agent shot and killed Renee Goods a week before. You heard her screaming, "I'm disabled," as agents carried her by her arms and her legs from her own car. Tonight, we know her name, Alia Rahman. And in just a minute, you'll hear from her for the first time in an exclusive interview. Alia says she was never part of the protest that day. She was simply just trying to go to her doctor's appointment. But in a statement, the Homeland Security Department called Rahman a, quote, agitator, adding she, quote, ignored multiple commands by an officer to move her vehicle away from the scene. She was arrested for obstruction. The Minneapolis Police Chief, Brian O'Hara, he watched the video. He sees it differently.
Obviously, I don't know why law enforcement officers initially approached the vehicle. It pisses me off to see that. To see men doing that to a woman who's disabled. It pisses me off. If those cops works for me, they'd have a problem right now.
With me now, Alia Rahman and her attorney, Alexa Van Brunt. Thank you both for being here. Alia, I want to start with you because this has been viral. People have seen this video over and over again. People have many opinions. This is what happened to you. It is your life. It is your journey. But the government, they're calling you an agitator. So can you just help me understand? Walk me through what happened in those moments before these agents dragged you from your car.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Laura. And happy birthday, Dr. King. I'm really happy that you asked this question, right? Because I have been so concerned that folks might be distracted from the real issue at hand by instead debating why I proceeded slowly through a militarized traffic jam full of pedestrians and a cacophony of conflicting instructions. I was on my way to the doctor. I was on a main road that is a direct road from my house to the parking lot. Suddenly there's traffic in the road. There are vehicles blocking it ahead, vehicles that later I understood were ICE vehicles. People around me trying to understand what to do. And I think that you see the rest.
So you weren't, I mean, in the beginning of the video, you see the federal agents saying something to you before you were dragged out. They say that you were given what they call repeated warnings. I just heard you say this cacophony of conflicting commands. What were they saying to you? What did you understand to be happening?
So many stars are in the making at SCAD. Students like you.
Well, I think I didn't understand what was happening, right? I am a disabled person who has autism, right? That is a big piece of this. But I think even someone who doesn't have the kind of auditory processing challenges I do would not know what to do with the sentence, move. I will break your effing window. And then back and forth between move, get out, trying to open my door, more threats of breaking a window, which I don't understand the functional purpose of. And it's not a warning, it's a threat of violence that really shouldn't be packaged with an instruction. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to tell you about what my ears hear in that situation. But in my ears, my autism also comes with an auditory sorting challenge where multiple human voices at like a loud party or on a chaotic street all sound like they're the person talking to me. So that's one reason, you see me looking and trying to identify which lips are talking to me. But of course, that's not possible because ICE officers wear things that cover their mouths and faces except for their eyes, right?
So it is so informative for you to explain what it was personally like for you, for us to have watched the video and now to understand at least a part of what you were experiencing in that, because there is a conflicting report from their vantage point that tries to explain what you were thinking or feeling, and you've done it yourself. But I want to be clear, you say you were not there to protest ICE. You were there on your way to an appointment, and you stopped in the traffic, and I got the conflicting reports and commands. Were you there to protest ICE? Had you ever protested ICE before in that arena?
No.
So when you went that day and you were detained, as you said, what was that like for you once you were? What happened after they took you?
Number one, I experienced a very specific set of dehumanization practices during the 6 stages of detention and processing that I counted before I went unconscious and was taken out in an ambulance. Number 2, during every one of those stages, I clocked ICE agents doing things that indicated they were not aware of what their job was or how to do it. Lots of, where's this? What do we do next? Agents had to stop at all 5 stages. Agents had to stop, ask someone else what to do, where basic things were. There were local staff who seemed to know some of that thing, but I distinctly heard 2 of them at one point say to each other, we don't want to step on ICE's toes, when I was trying to get medical care. And the third is that the practices I experienced with like my own body, ears, and eyes do not make sense to me as an immigration or public safety strategy, because they make things less safe. And honestly, I was not separated from a citizen of any other country. I think people believe this is just immigrants in there, and it is not. I was told that if I were a normal human, nothing would be a problem.
They said that to you.
We have now heard from, oh yeah. You know, when I asked for disability accommodations, and I said, did anybody bring my cane with me from the car? I need that to walk, not stand, but walk, because my balance is bad. They said, there's no canes here. They stood me up in light irons and said, walk, push my back. Walk, you can do it. Nobody said, maybe we should find something else. There was no medical screening. I was never once asked for my ID, even told I was under arrest, never charged.
Wow.
And when I sat there and somebody finally noticed I was, not able to balance, even sitting, and they said, I think there might have been a wheelchair around here the other day, because I kept asking, can you at least get a wheelchair? People said, I don't even know if we have those. That's not the answer to that question. That's never should be happening. And when they put me in the wheelchair, finally, an officer said, wait, you are driving, right? So your legs do work.
What?
You know, I refrain from saying, hey, have you ever seen a handicap parking spot, sir? What? But the thing is, right, people are going to say, well, none of that stuff is illegal. It's just mean. But I refrain from saying, an officer said, wait, you are driving, right? So your legs do work.
What?
You know, I refrain from saying, hey, have you ever seen a handicap parking spot, sir? What? But the thing is, right, people are going to say, well, none of that stuff is illegal. It's just mean. But I have read too many books to think that things are okay on this level of dehumanization. People are going to refrain from saying, wait, you are driving, right? So your legs do work.
What?
You know, I refrain from saying, hey, have you ever seen a handicap parking spot, sir? What? But the thing is, right, people are going to say, well, none of that stuff is illegal. It's just mean. But I have read too many books to think that things are okay when this level of dehumanization is happening, because it means officers are probably trying to get through their day when they have been given orders that are not righteous and they are to hurt people.
Alexa, I have to ask you, and Ali, you have to forgive me. My own sister is mobility impaired, and she drives with the assistance. Had to accommodate and adapt her car so many different times to be able to still function and live in the standard that she wants to. I get emotional thinking about it, but my blood is boiling thinking about that experience. So can you just describe from the legal perspective of it?
Yeah.
She was detained. The DHS said that she was arrested for obstruction.
Yeah.
Are you aware if she is facing any charges? I have to, for a second, compartmentalize the dehumanization just to get through the question. You have to forgive me. Have you heard that she is facing any charges?
I have not heard, and it would, if she were, they would be completely baseless, because the people who violated laws at that scene were the DHS officers. And in particular, every officer in the way they treated her once they found out she had a disability, because Alia was very upfront about it. She told the officers, I am a woman with a disability. I have autism. She yelled it. You can hear it on the video. And they escalated at that point and then subjected her to a very brutal use of force, pulling her out of the car, slamming her down on the ground, and then carrying her like an animal is the only way to describe it. That violates every police standard and how you are supposed to interact with somebody in a car. And it violates every standard in how you're supposed to interact with somebody with a disability.
For more on the vote today ending the partial government shutdown and the latest on the Epstein files, I spoke earlier today with House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York. Leader Jeffries, welcome back to the NewsHour.
Thank you for having me on.
More than 20 House Democrats voted with Republicans to reopen the government. You voted against the measure. Why?
Well, what's clear to me is that there needs to be dramatic change at the Department of Homeland Security. We supported the 5 bipartisan bills that are now on their way to President Trump's desk because they are actually designed to promote the health, the safety, and the economic well-being of the American people. Rosa DeLauro, top Democrat on the Appropriations Committee, did a tremendous job in negotiating those bills. The American people don't want to see their taxpayer dollars, however, utilized to brutalize and kill American citizens. Taxpayer dollars should actually be used to make life more affordable for everyday Americans. And that's going to be the genesis of the fight over the next 10 days as we approach the funding deadline on February 13th for the Department of Homeland Security.
That's right. We should explain to folks who might be unfamiliar. This agreement kicks off this 10-day sprint now for Democrats and Republicans to agree on policy changes for how ICE should operate. What specific changes do you believe must be addressed before Democrats support longer-term funding?
Fundamentally, we believe that ICE should conduct itself like every other law enforcement agency in the country. Police officers don't wear masks. Sheriffs don't wear masks. State troopers don't wear masks. There's no justification for the manner in which ICE is conducting itself in terms of masks. They should be required to have body cameras. They should be required to obtain judicial warrants before they can rip everyday Americans out of their homes or out of their cars. We want to make clear that there's an explicit prohibition from ICE detaining or deporting American citizens, which we have seen examples of, unfortunately. We believe that if ICE agents break the law, they should be held accountable. And those investigations should be fair, complete, and independent, which also means giving state and local authorities the ability to investigate violations of state and local law.
The DHS Secretary, Kristi Noem, said this week that DHS will deploy body cameras to Minneapolis and other cities as funding allows for those agents who are working in those cities. Is that sufficient? Is that a good enough first step, a sign that the administration is at least open to changes?
Well, Kristi Noem has zero credibility. Certainly it is the case that body cameras should be required. And we also know that the Department of Homeland Security has more than enough funding. In the one big ugly bill, where Republicans enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, and at the same time stripped away about $186 billion in support for nutritional assistance, they literally stole food from the mouths of hungry children, seniors, and veterans in order to give the Department of Homeland Security a $191 billion slush fund, $75 billion of which went to ICE. So the funding clearly exists for every single ICE agent to have body cameras on and functioning at all times. And the fact that Kristi Noem is suggesting that there may be a funding shortfall indicates further the lack of credibility that she has. She should be fired. And if she's not fired, I've indicated that the House Democrats are prepared to initiate impeachment proceedings against her.
In the time that remains, I want to ask you about the Epstein files, because the Justice Department last week released over 3 million pages of Epstein-related documents. Many of them were heavily redacted. There are legislators who say that not all of the relevant material has been disclosed. In your view, did the DOJ comply with the congressional intent and with the law in the way that it has gone about making these documents public?
The Department of Justice continues to hide documents from the American people in a manner that is entirely inconsistent with the law that was passed with huge bipartisan majorities and, of course, signed by Donald Trump. And the question has to once again be asked, what are the Department of Justice lawyers hiding from the American people, and who are they protecting? There are more than 3 million documents that have not been released. And as you indicated, several documents have been heavily redacted. And so the survivors of the Epstein crime spree have boldly and appropriately called for accountability and transparency. And the only way to achieve that is to make sure that the Department of Justice releases the Epstein files in their entirety They have failed to do that to date.
Meantime, the Clintons have agreed to testify in this Republican-led inquiry. It's led by the House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, as you well know. This appears to be an effort by the GOP to make the Clintons the face of this Epstein scandal, the Epstein investigation. The question I have for you, though, is about the precedent. If Democrats win the House come November, does this mean that future investigations will apply the same standard to presidents and political leaders of both parties?
Well, I think that, the Clintons have endeavored to enter into good faith negotiations with a Republican majority that is clearly trying to create a political circus in order to try to distract from the accountability and lack of full transparency that the Trump administration has been blocking since the very beginning of this whole sordid matter. And so from our standpoint, I'm thankful that it appears that we're now on a path toward the Clintons reaching an agreement with the House to provide their testimony. But I don't believe that James Comer is a serious individual or that he's seriously trying to actually get information that then can be presented to the American people as part of what we are trying to accomplish here, which is transparency and accountability. He wants to politicize things. He's targeting the Clintons so he can distract from the fact that the Trump administration is failing to comply with the law, a law that Donald Trump himself signed.
House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries, thanks again for your time this evening.
Thank you so much.
Joining me now is House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Thank you, Leader, for being with us. Let's start with the partial government shutdown, largely over DHS funding. And the breaking news tonight that you've reportedly told Speaker Mike Johnson that House Democrats will not provide the votes to pass the government funding bill through the fast-track suspension of the rules process. This will force House leadership to go through regular order and potentially jeopardize passage of the package. What can you tell us, Leader Jeffries, that this will do and why you've made that decision?
Well, good evening, Rev. It's great to be with you. We clearly have a DHS and ICE agency that is completely and totally out of control. Taxpayer dollars should be used to make life more affordable for everyday Americans, not kill them or brutalize law-abiding immigrant families, which is what we're seeing in Minneapolis and all across the country. We've laid out a clear set of demands. We're in alignment with the way in which Leader Schumer and Senate Democrats have articulated those demands. And we're going to need to see dramatic change as it relates to how the Department of Homeland Security operates moving forward. In terms of the legislation that's going to be in front of the House on Monday, we need a full and complete debate. And what I've made clear to House Republicans is that they cannot simply move forward with legislation taking a my way or the highway approach in the absence of House Democrats convening, which we're going to do tomorrow, and having a discussion about the appropriate way forward and making sure that in this 2-week period of time that is contemplated by the continuing resolution that would freeze ICE funding for 14 days, that there's a robust, ironclad path to bringing about the type of change that the American people are demanding.
So I'm clear on this, to really make sure I understand this. The Democrats in the House that you are the leader of are saying that you want some definitive things done before you even get to a 2-week deadline or a 2-week extension running out. You want to see something definitive, including the fact that many Democrats around the country, many people want to see something about ICE. You want to see some melting of the ice before you vote for the package.
Well, what we're saying is that we need a clear path forward, and we haven't had that discussion with the White House or anyone within the administration. And the things that we've talked about needing to occur, and we understand that we're going to have to build this into law, and that's what's contemplated, we believe, at least, over the next 2 weeks, are things like no masks, body cameras being mandatory. We need judicial warrants before ICE can storm homes or rip people out of their cars in the horrific ways that we've been seeing. We need to make sure that ICE agents who violate the law can actually be criminally investigated and prosecuted by state and local authorities when their laws have been violated. There is no such thing, we believe, as absolute immunity. And it was horrifying to hear the vice president make that observation a few weeks ago. We need ICE and DHS agencies to conduct themselves like every other law enforcement agency in the country. And what we're saying is that if we're contemplating a 2-week freeze in order to get us to a place where we can see dramatic change, we want to understand that there's an ironclad path forward to get those things done.
Now, earlier today, a federal judge denied an emergency request from Minnesota to end Operation Metro Surge in the state. This as we've learned that Ohio appears to be the next target for an ICE surge. And the DOJ has launched a civil rights investigation into Alex Prentice's killing, but no federal investigation has been announced in the killing of Renee Goods. Now, thousands of people flooded Minneapolis's chilly streets for a second straight Friday, calling for ICE to leave Minnesota and other states. We have seen additional demonstrations today. But what's your message to the people who want to see ICE out of their communities and who want to see these killings fully investigated with agents held accountable both by the state and the federal government?
Well, the American way is a full and complete investigation. Nobody is above the law. But what we're seeing from this Trump Department of Justice, from the Trump administration, in fact, from high-level members of the Trump administration, including so-called Secretary Kristi Noem, are excuses and lies trying to cover up an investigation, slandering Renee Nicole Good as a domestic terrorist, slandering Alex Preti as a domestic terrorist, or as Stephen Miller called him, a would-be assassin, when the American people know that the exact opposite was the case. And we are seeing thousands of people in Minnesota and beyond peacefully and powerfully and patriotically protest. And that's consistent with American values. What the Department of Justice is doing, they can only be trusted to investigate Donald Trump's political enemies. They can't be trusted to conduct a fair, an impartial, and an independent investigation, which is why one of the demands that we've been making in terms of what needs to happen moving forward with the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Justice is to make it clear that state and local officials, like the Attorney General of the great state of Minnesota, A.G. Keith Ellison, or others, have the ability to investigate federal agents who break the law.
Now, one of your Democratic caucus members, Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, was sprayed with vinegar this week at a town hall by an assailant now facing federal assault charges. The assailant appears to be a supporter of President Trump, and the attack follows Trump's claims this week that the DOJ and Congress are investigating Omar, who he's suggested, without evidence, to have staged the town hall incident. A new report from U.S. Capitol Police has found threats against members of Congress have spiked in 2025 for a third year in a row. So how do you keep your members safe when the president is sending these kinds of messages, even when his administration is claiming they want to de-escalate tensions?
Well, Donald Trump needs to tone down his irresponsible rhetoric, which is fanning the flames of hatred against members of Congress generally, and of course, in this specific instance, against Representative Ilhan Omar, who's a hardworking, conscientious, courageous public servant, trying to do the best that she can under very difficult circumstances to serve the people that she's privileged to represent in Minnesota. We need to continue to lean in and do everything possible to protect the safety and the well-being of members of Congress and their families so that during this very fraught time, and we've seen political violence increase over the last 10 years to levels that are unacceptable, that members of Congress in the House and in the Senate can actually serve the people that they represent in this very challenging moment of trial, of tribulation, and of turbulence.
Let me ask you something. You said yesterday that there was no basis for independent journalist Don Lemon's arrest by federal agents in connection with a protest at a Minneapolis church this month. Then he was charged with conspiracy and interfering with the First Amendment rights of worshipers, along with 7 other people, almost all of whom were black, including 3 people arrested yesterday, 2 local activists and a Minneapolis-based journalist who live streamed her arrest by FBI agents. Seems like the president has been especially keen on going after black protesters and journalists, Congressman. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's no doubt that black and brown communities have been under assault during this presidency. Working class communities of every color have been under assault during this presidency. The economy under assault, healthcare under assault, nutritional assistance under assault. We know farmers and veterans have been under assault. Due process, the American way of life, the rule of law, and democracy itself. It's been an all-out assault on the American people. And black and brown communities have been bearing a significant share of that extremism that has been unleashed here in the United States of America. There was no basis in law or in fact to arrest Don Lemon or any of the other journalists. We know that Don Lemon is an accomplished journalist with decades of service consistent with the First Amendment in this country. Donald Trump is trying to intimidate people who stand up to them. But the American people have demonstrated over the last year, we will not be intimidated by these extremists. The American people are pushing back significantly across the board. They know that the Trump administration and the extremists in the Republican Party have failed the country. Their policies have been a disaster. It's one of the reasons why in the off-year election in November, Republicans are losing up and down the ballot and all across the country decisively. And it's my expectation that that's going to continue. That's why Democrats are going to take back control of the House of Representatives in November.
Let's come back to Capitol Hill for a moment, Congressman. More than 3 million new Jeffrey Epstein files were released by the DOJ yesterday, the largest release so far. And what the DOJ says is the last batch of Epstein files coming more than a month after the mid-December deadline mandated by Congress. Still, DOJ hasn't released all related documents in its possession. What's your reaction and what's the next step for the House in terms of investigating this since we don't have all of the documents?
The Department of Justice has failed to comply with the law, which requires a complete release of documents consistent with the sentiments of the courageous survivors of the Epstein affairs and the horrendous situations that they were put into by this monster, as well as the people who were associated with him. The American people deserve complete and total transparency so there can be complete and total accountability. This is a law that was passed and, in fact, signed by President Donald Trump over his initial objections for months. So it's clear that if you are withholding approximately 3 million documents, which is the case right now, we have to ask the question, what is the Trump administration continuing to hide from the American people?
Now, staying on the Hill for a moment, the Supreme Court is set to decide on whether Trump can fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook. Fed Chair Jerome Powell is watching that case closely as his term enters its last few months. Yesterday, Trump announced his pick for Powell's replacement, former Fed Governor Kevin Walsh, whose name popped up in the Epstein files yesterday, though there's not any evidence of wrongdoing on his behalf. Walsh's father-in-law is a longtime Trump ally who's pushed the president on taking over Greenland. What's your reaction to all of this after all the Fed is supposed to be, it's supposed to be independent? So how do you react to all of this?
Well, Donald Trump's policies have failed the American people in terms of the economy. They promised to lower the high cost of living on day one. Costs haven't gone down under the Trump presidency. Costs have gone up. Housing costs out of control, grocery costs out of control, electricity bills out of control, healthcare costs out of control, childcare costs out of control. Life has become more difficult economically under Donald Trump's policies and under Republican policies. And so under normal circumstances, his pick to be the next chairman of the Federal Reserve Board should be closely scrutinized to make sure that it's actually someone who's going to help the American people out, as opposed to just following direction from Donald Trump and bending the knee to his extreme ideas, which have already proven to be a disaster. And good for Senator Tom Tillis, who's indicated because of this assault that has taken place on Lisa Cook, on Jerome Powell, and on others, that he doesn't intend to allow any of Trump's nominations, including the one related to being the next chair, to move forward. I completely and totally support that position and hope that every single member of the United States Senate freezes any nominations related to Donald Trump's efforts to alter the independence of the Federal Reserve Board.
Now later in this hour, I'll be talking with the chair of the Fulton County, Georgia's Board of Elections Commissioners, following the FBI raid this week on the County Board of Elections office to seize 2020 ballots. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard was on site for the raid, raising questions about why the U.S. spy chief was present for a domestic law enforcement action, and concerns about how the president may use the federal law enforcement to potentially influence the midterm elections. The administration has said that the DNI plays a crucial role in election security. What do you make of that explanation, particularly with the midterms 9 months away and having such significance for the future of this country?
The explanation offered by the Trump administration has zero credibility. There was absolutely no reason for the Director of National Intelligence to be present at what should be a law enforcement activity that is completely domestic in nature. And I think there's reason for all of us to continue to be concerned that Donald Trump and Republicans have adopted voter suppression as an electoral strategy. They know they can't win a free and fair election in November. They're going to get crushed, wiped out all across America because of their failed policies and the fact that Democrats are the only ones in this country right now, in terms of a political party, talking about driving down the high cost of living, dealing with the affordability crisis that Donald Trump doesn't think exists, and fixing our broken healthcare system. And so we're going to have to work with governors and attorney generals and secretaries of state all across the country, as well as the legal community, civil rights groups, democracy protection groups like Democracy Forward and others who are doing a tremendous job to make sure that we are ensuring a free and fair election in November, so that it's the American people who get to decide who is in the majority in the House and in the Senate, not Donald Trump and his corrupt sycophants.
Now, I know we're out of time, but I must ask you this. Tomorrow is February 1st, the beginning of Black History Month. And under this administration, we've seen in many states and a tone set, in my opinion, by the administration to try and really minimize, if not wipe out, Black history in many aspects of American life, being able to learn about it in schools and other places. How do you view the importance of Black History Month 2026, given the assault in many areas on even teaching or talking about Black history?
Black history is now more important than ever. It's the 100th anniversary of Black History Month, and we're thankful for what it represents, which is a celebration of the African-American journey in this country, which cannot be separated from the American journey. It's one and the same. And the movements that Donald Trump is attempting to wipe out, whether that relates to abolition or the movement that brought about Reconstruction or the movement that connected to the Civil Rights era, which was all about making sure that there was actually liberty and justice for all and equal protection under the law. The progress that has been made, led by African Americans at these moments, of course, has benefited African Americans in terms of being full and complete participants in the American dream to the best of the country's ability. We're not a perfect country. We're marching toward a more perfect union. But these efforts at progress improve the situation for everyone. So Black history is American history, and we're not going to let Donald Trump and the extremists ever erase it.
Hey there, want to learn how to trade but don't know where to start? I get it. Most trading courses cost a fortune.
Give us the murderers that they're holding and all of the bad people.
This drawdown. This morning, the White House border czar, Tom Homan, announced that effective today, the Department of Homeland Security will withdraw 700 personnel from Minnesota, leaving about 2,000 in place. In just a moment, I'm going to speak with the Minneapolis mayor, Jacob Fry, who says that although this is a step in the right direction, it is not de-escalation.
That big change on immigration, 700 officers leaving Minneapolis. Did that come from you?
Yes, it did. But it didn't come from me because I just wanted to do it. We are waiting for them to release prisoners, give us the murderers that they're holding. And
so why do you guys think Trump did this? This is interesting because so many people have conflicting opinions about this. Some people are like, oh, he's folding the peer pressure. Some people are like, it's a political move for the midterms. Why do you guys think 700 ICE officers are leaving? Because some people are like, he's definitely going to lose the midterms because of all the violence that we've been exposed to with ICE. But it's no mistake here that this is happening right before the midterms kick off.
all of the bad people.
This drawdown comes after weeks of outrage following the killing of two American citizens, Renee Goods and Alex Preddy, by federal agents. Amid the protests, state and local leaders have called for a complete end to federal operations in the city. Homan today said that's possible, but only if things change on the ground.
My goal with the support of President Trump is to achieve a complete drawdown and end this surge as soon as we can. But that is largely contingent upon the end of the illegal and threatening activities against ICE and its federal partners that we're seeing in the community.
All right, let's get off the sidelines and head into the arena. My panel is standing by. But first, let's get right to CNN senior White House correspondent Kristen Holmes. Kristen, this was a pretty remarkable admission from President Trump, essentially unprompted. He was just asked, what have you learned? And he said that it needs a softer touch.
Yeah, it's a rare concession when it comes to President Trump. He often doubles down on anything that he's doing. And in the past, when he's been asked what he's learned in various situations, he certainly doesn't admit to any kind of wrongdoing. However, the term softer touch obviously implies that things could have been done differently. And while this goes against the rhetoric we've heard from President Trump, even just as recently as when he was at the Melania film premiere and he said that he wouldn't be drawing down agents in Minneapolis, it certainly aligns with what we were hearing was going on behind closed doors, which was the administration was looking for an off-ramp when it came to Minneapolis, and they were understanding, as President Trump among them, that this didn't look good, that this wasn't playing well for the administration. It certainly wasn't going well either. President Trump has seen all of the polling numbers when it comes to his immigration tactics. So the fact that they're actually drawing down numbers of agents there, the fact that they understand, at least to some extent, at least President Trump does, that this situation got out of control, that goes again with what we've been hearing happening behind closed doors. And so what you're seeing now is Tom Homan doing exactly what he was slated to do, which was go into Minneapolis, into Minnesota, work with these various officials and turn the temperature down. They are very much aware that right now things are incredibly heated. And that's why you've seen Homan in these back-to-back meetings with these local officials trying to, again, turn the temperature down and find an off-ramp for the administration when it comes to the immigration crackdown in that state.
All right, Kristen Holmes kicking us off this afternoon. Kristen, thank you very much for that. And joining me now is Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for being in the arena. I really appreciate your time today. And I'd like to start by just asking what you would say back to President Trump. President Trump said in an interview that a softer touch is required. What do you say to President Trump?
He's right that a softer touch has
been required. The drawdown of both federal agents as well as the implementation of body cameras is obviously a step in the right direction. That being said, the continued presence of 2,000 federal agents in a city that only has 600 police officers is still not de-escalation. So we have been very clear that Operation Metro Surge needs to end. The restoration of peace, of safety, the rejuvenation of small local businesses throughout our city depends on one main thing, which is for ICE to leave, and so that continues to be our position.
Sir, how would you characterize, you say it's not a de-escalation. What is it? What does it mean that 700 of these agents are leaving?
Well, obviously, there is a de-escalatory element if you are decreasing the number of agents that are on the street. That being said, when you have 2,000 agents that are still here, approximately 20 times that which we had prior to Operation Metro Surge, that, relatively speaking, no, is not a de-escalation. And so we need to understand where we have been and then where we were just a couple of months ago. You know, look, we've had ICE operate in our city for decades. We've had ICE operate in our city even during a Trump administration. And this is not about ICE doing normal ICE stuff. The objection is to ICE pulling people off the street indiscriminately. It's these roving bands that were walking through Minneapolis and targeting both Latino and Somali people without regard for whether any crime had been committed at all. The frustration, of course, comes in the way and the how people in our city have been treated. I think, you know, you've got tens of thousands of people in Minneapolis that are standing up and speaking out and delivering food to those that would be terrified to go outside and stand and watch at a daycare. And they're doing it for the right reasons. They're doing it because they care about their neighbors. And that is a beautiful Minneapolis sentiment.
Sir, of course, this coming from Tom Homan, the border czar, who was sent in to replace the Border Patrol head who had been in Minneapolis. You've now had a number of meetings with Homan behind closed doors. Do you trust Tom Homan?
Learn Spanish with Real Spanish TV. Click on words in the subtitle.
The meetings that we've had with Border Czar Homan, the meeting that we had with Trump was a positive meeting. It was affable, it was collegial, and at the same time, we continue to have very clear asks. Those asks are end Operation Metro Surge. You know, obviously, they have talked about wanting to improve safety in a number of cities throughout the country. And if this is about safety, hey, you know what? We're on board to catch offenders of violent crime. We've worked extensively with a number of different federal agencies, from the DEA to the ATF to the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office, to successfully drive down crime in Minneapolis to where, you know, we're seeing record lows in some areas right now, and we have been for quite some time. But again, that is not what this has been about over this last month and a half. What this has been about is not about safety. It's not about even immigration. This has been about creating some sort of political narrative and seeking political retribution on people that don't agree with the president.
Sir, one of the policy pieces that conservatives keep returning to that has become a flashpoint is the jails, state and local jails, and whether or not they will be required to follow ICE detainers, right, to turn people over to ICE when they are released. Why don't you want to do that?
Well, we don't have any jails under our authority in Minneapolis. And so that's not even a question that is posed to us.
Well, Hennepin County has jails, correct?
Correct. Hennepin County has jails.
Is there a reason why you would urge them not to follow these detainers?
I don't know all of the logistics associated with the Hennepin County jail. What I do know is that both at the state level and corrections, And also at the county level, we have worked pretty extensively with federal agents from a number of different departments to make sure that violent offenders have been apprehended. There are a number of pretty technical logistics as to how those offenders are handled and where they are ultimately sent. But, look.
Get it together, Jacob. You're not answering the question. I mean, clearly he's annoying the reporter, and this is what's crazy because I'm not even a fan of CNN, but I could even, like, Mayor Fry has a problem with dancing around questions, but here it's like, it's so disgusting. I'm like, dude, just answer the questions. The dance is crazy.
Look, in Minneapolis, we got to make sure that due process is achieved. We got to make sure that somebody isn't held accountable for a crime that they didn't commit, but where they've committed crimes, yeah, of course, you investigate, you prosecute, you charge, you arrest, and then, yeah, ICE, they have the role that they've been delegated through Congress as well. But that is not what we're talking about here. Again, what we have seen are all sorts of constitutional violations that have been carried out on our street. It's been largely indiscriminate pickups. And that is not okay in Minneapolis. That's not okay in any city in the entire country. And by the way, what we're also seeing, and this needs to be made clear, is coercion. It is compelling local officials to change their policies and their practices to meet an overarching national or federal agenda.
Given this increase in unprecedented collaboration, and as a result of the need for less law enforcement officers to do this work in a safer environment, I have announced effective immediately we will draw down 700 people effective today. 700 law enforcement personnel. Again, this is smarter enforcement, not less enforcement. My goal with the support of President Trump is to achieve a complete drawdown and end this surge as soon as we can. But that is largely contingent upon the end of the illegal and threatening activities against ICE and its federal partners that we're seeing in the community. We want to get back to the original footprint, the Minnesota footprint of what ICE officers looked like before this operation.
Don't start drop shipping in 2025. That old model of slow shipping, low quality products, and
Hey, Bill O'Reilly here. Welcome to the No Spin News thing. Still a lot of stories going on, but calm is something we need here. Because there's just so much strife, not only in the USA, but all around the world. I did a Piers Morgan interview today. He's over in London, and it goes all over Europe, all around the world. And we'll post that on Friday in the message slot. And I think you should watch it because Europeans have no blanking clue what's going on here. And the media over there misreports stuff. It's not like here, where the press in America is partisan. So the corporate media, about 80% of it, wants the Democratic Party to win the midterms. We know all that. And so they skew their coverage to try to make that happen. The other 20% love Donald Trump. They want the Republicans to retain power. But in Europe, it's different. They don't even understand the basics of the stories, like ICE. So I explained it to Mr. Morgan, who gave me a lot of time to roam, and I think you'll enjoy that. Again, it will be posted, BillO'Reilly.com on Friday. Talking Boy's memo is politics and the Olympics. Okay, Friday, opening ceremonies, Milan, Italy. So town, not one of my favorites. If you go to Italy, you got, the south, which is warmer. Rome on down. Love it there. And then the north is the Alps. And beautiful.
Milan, an industrial city in the north, and Cortina, a resort outside of Milan, is where the mountains are, and they're going to do all the snowboarding and skiing and bobsledding, and then the ice hockey and the indoor events will be done in the city of Milan. Now, here's the deal on this. So the opening ceremony takes place at 2:30 on Friday, okay? And I think it's going to get record viewership all around the world. I think the Olympics are going to be very big this year. And the games last until February 22nd. That's long. That's a long slog. Security is overseen by the Italian government. Not sure. Now, I know they have consulted, they being the Italian government, with the United States. We have the best security in the world here. Man, it seems like it sometimes we do. And I know that American agents are there, but I'm worried about this a little bit. There are two countries banned from the Olympics, Russia and Belarus, both because of the Ukrainian war. So they cannot show up. Not a lot of big stars. Lindsey Vonn, the skier, 41 years old, is the biggest American name. She hurt herself in the practice runs up. She says she's going to compete, but boy, oh boy, it's going to be tough on her. But otherwise, a lot of anonymous athletes, they will become famous fast when they win. And I'm looking forward to some very good, stiff competition. Now, here's the downside. At the same time the Olympic ceremonies are opening on Friday, the United States will be talking to Iran in Istanbul, Turkey, about a deal. Now, as I reported last night, I had an extensive conversation with President Trump yesterday, much of it about Iran. And, I can't give you the blow-by-blow because it wasn't on the record, but I can tell you that I know a lot about it. And he was asking, and I always give my opinion when asked. I never volunteer it. I don't know whether the deal that President Trump is going to offer will be accepted, because if it is, it will humiliate the mullahs, and they deserve to be not only humiliated, they deserve to be executed. And I don't even believe in capital punishment. If you read my book, Confronting Evil, I got the Ayatollah on the cover. It's exactly the same thing that happened to Shah. Ayatollah came in. Now Persians want the mullahs out. They want to have secular government. Exactly the same. Okay? So anyway, in that conversation with President Trump, something's going to happen. It's not going to be like Obama walking away from Assad. You remember Assad in Syria? You remember the poison gas red line thing? No. Something will happen. But it coincides with the Olympics. This is an unreported story. So if you got the Olympics and everybody's, watching, and all of a sudden you've got American air power leveling the Revolutionary Guard headquarters, which would be the first target, how do you do that? So keep that in mind. The other thing is that Putin's going to cause trouble. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. But I don't know how that trouble is going to unfold. I probably would predict that he will do something heinous in Ukraine. Carpet bomb Kyiv, something like that. But again, he wants to disrupt the Olympics, Putin. So that is all in play. Now, the biggest attraction for me, and I bet for a lot of you, is the hockey. Because if the USA and Canada get to the finals, oh boy, bad blood between President Trump and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. Canadian team is good. American team's good too, but Canadians are going to be favored. But boy, what a match that would be, huh? So anyway, keep all of that in mind. Things are unfolding quickly. All of that happens on Friday, and that is the memo. You've heard me talk.
Porn and scrolling are the most expensive habits a high IQ man can have. He says he's fine, but he has...
The book is the difficulty of getting American society and the American government running in a way that benefited all Americans. Thomas Paine, very crusty guy. Everybody hated him, except me. I liked him. And Jonathan Turley, the author, goes all through that. So if you like history and you read my books, you'll like this. Then the book takes a turn into, well, are we going to be able to keep what we have here? Our republic, we're going to keep it because we got now a surge in AI, we got new techs, we got a corrupt media, we got academia that's falling apart. Can we keep it? So joining us now is the aforementioned Jonathan Turley. He's a law professor at George Washington University. You see him on TV all the time, read his columns. All right, so I want to stay in the present day because you are right in the fire zone. So you teach at a very liberal university, George Washington. Some of your columns and commentary are, I wouldn't say conservative right wing, but they're not liberal. And you do go after some people on the left. What has happened to you because of that?
Well, I'm one of the few libertarians, conservatives, contrarians left in academia. Recent surveys have shown that many departments don't have a single conservative or Republican or libertarian. Yale reached sort of nirvana stage not long ago, where they found that not a single faculty member at Yale contributed to the Republican Party. So there's been this purging that has gone on since I first went into teaching over 30 years ago. And I talk about this in Rage in the Republic, because the second half of the book, as you note, Bill, is looking at whether this republic can survive in what we're facing. Now, part of that is what I call the rise of the new Jacobins. And the Jacobins were, of course, those people who brought about the French Revolution, because the book looks at both the American and French revolutions and the personalities involved, and asks, why did one, the American Revolution, become the most successful, oldest democracy in history, and why did the other become the reign of terror, and what we could learn from that? And the Jacobins began as professors, journalists, lawyers, who talked about due process and the rights of man. And then they became architects of the terror. And what the book suggests is we're hearing those voices again. These new Jacobins. You have the dean of Berkeley Law School saying that the U.S. Constitution is a failure. This is on our 250th anniversary. You have the New York Times regularly publishing law professors saying we have to break the system down, pack or get rid of the Supreme Court, make these radical changes. And what the book raises is that these are people who are trying to remove the very elements that got us here today, the very elements that saved us historically from the demise that we saw in things like the French Revolution.
And in modern times, in the fascist states all around the world. But why? Why would intelligent people, number one, veer so far left? Do they fear robust debate? Do they fear allowing the American people to make their own decisions?
Well, there is this echo chamber environment that benefits many of these, particularly law professors, also journalists. They write for each other. If you eliminate anyone who's a dissenting voice, it helps you. You get more invitations to conferences, more publications, more control. The last thing you want is someone who's going to say you're wrong. And I never thought we would be in this position, quite frankly. As I said, I went into teaching 30 years ago, but more importantly, as I talk about in the book, when I went to University of Chicago, it was an awakening for me. There were people. I grew up in a liberal, democratic, politically active family. I knew there were young Republicans. I just never met one. And I went to University of Chicago, and in the basement, the Trotskyites would meet. And upstairs, we had militant vegans. And next door, we had these bizarre libertarians. It was like walking into the Star Wars bar scene. And for me, it was absolutely just thrilling. I loved every minute of it. I was fascinated to see people that saw what I saw and saw something completely different. My students simply don't have that anymore. Most law schools, for example, don't even have a Republican or conservative. If they do, they just have a couple. Now, keep in mind, this country is a majority conservative or libertarian. And, I had a debate at Harvard with one of their professors, and I raised with him, and I like him a great deal, but I raised with him this issue that the faculty at Harvard has only a handful of conservatives or Republicans, and the student body is less than 9% in a country that's divided equally, and where the majority of judges are conservative. And he immediately said, well, we're Harvard, we're an elite university, we don't have to look like America. And I said, but Randall, you don't even look like Massachusetts. I mean, Massachusetts is over 30%.
But see, that's the key to changing traditional American society, the classroom. So if you get the urchins at age 13, and by the time they get out of college, they're 22, and all they hear is America's bad, stolen land. That amused me greatly at the stupid music awards. If all they hear is that, then you're indoctrinating a whole new generation of Americans to move to the radical left. So I think this is a very well thought out plan.
No, it is. And in fact, Raging Republic goes into that because I talk about Mondami. I talk about all these socialists. The polls show that socialism and even communism are being embraced by really record numbers of young people. And as I talk about in the book, these are people with no memory or experience with the socialist governments that collapsed in the 20th century. So all they know are these sound bites, like Mondami saying, I'm going to introduce you to the warmth of collectivism.
Right.
It's very much like, as I talk in the book, when Mitterrand was elected president of France, he actually appointed a minister of leisure because he was promising the French they'd have so much time paid by the government that he was going to have someone manage to make sure they could get all the leisure they want.
I know.
And of course, the economy collapsed. But these kids never saw that.
Well, I mean, the warmth of collectivism is tough because Mondami can't even plow the snow off the streets of New York City. So that's collapsing pretty fast. But I think that you're correct in saying that when you have a monolithic left-wing educational system, and you do in this country, that's going to change the voting patterns. It has to. Now, the second thing is the corporate media has bought into that. They like that. You often appear on a Fox News channel. George Washington University can't be happy about that.
42 years old now. For the last 10 years, have been getting paid $10,000, $15,000, or $25,000 for one keynote talk.
Are they?
No, I've been shunned for years, but I've been shunned since I testified in the Clinton impeachment. So if you can't be fired, because I'm a tenured professor, so instead you're largely shunned.
What does that mean, shunned? How does that?
The thing is, this is a group that'll try to take away everything that has meaning to an intellectual. Publication of papers, joining conferences, those type of things go. If you really sort of violate this orthodoxy.
Have you ever had words with these people who are trying to sabotage your career?
No, because I don't have words with many academics because I am persona non grata.
They don't even talk to you,
there are very few of us left in academia, and it's amazing because half of the students are coming in this country are coming from conservative or libertarian families, and they get to law schools, and there's virtually no one that can share that view.
Right,
but. One of the things that worries me most, and I go into this in Rage in the Republic, is that we're going to be facing challenges that we have never encountered before. I talk about robotics and AI, but also global governance systems like the EU. But even as the book goes into, even taking the most conservative estimates, this book is a roaring endorsement of capitalism. I believe in capitalism. Milton Friedman ruined me at the University of Chicago. I do believe that capitalism will adjust, but we are looking at a massive job loss that we've never encountered before. And that means we're going to have a lot of people that may be on a subsidy of the government. And the book looks at how that would change us politically, not just economically.
Sure.
What if we have a kept citizenry that is being subsidized by the government?
Well, that's what happened in the early 1930s. So
Right,
you
so
had
the
the Hoover people come in, very conservative people, capitalists to the top of their forehead, and they booted the recovery of the Great Depression, and then FDR came in, and the whole electorate changed over. But I'm very interested in your personal story because you do write in a personal way in this book. So you get it on the Fox News channel. Now there's pressure there to toe that conservative line. Do you feel that?
I haven't. I've worked twice as legal analyst for NBC, twice legal analyst for CBS, also with BBC. So I've worked for 4 networks, and I have good memories of all 4 networks. I've never felt pressure at Fox.
Good. I'm glad to hear that because I never did when I was there. They never ever interfered with what I did. But when you're on there, do you understand the vilification? Because that was crazy on my boat. From my experience, I got attacked every hour on the hour. I never understood it. So why do you care what I say when you got 5 other news outlets that are saying what you want to hear? Why is one outlier, me or you, if you say something the left doesn't like, why does it bother these people? I never got that.
I think that, and I go into this in the book as well, that part of the problem with this orthodoxy, both in the media and in academia, is that it makes you increasingly intolerant to hear opposing views, because all you hear in your echo chamber, if you just go from MS Now to CNN, or if you don't leave that silo, you become more and more intolerant, which is what we're seeing. And also social media has changed us a lot. I've had a lot of death threats. My family's been threatened. The uptick was when I testified in the second impeachment involving Donald Trump, and I received hundreds of threatening emails.
What did you tell the people, just so if people don't remember, what did you say? Your crux of your remarks were what about Trump impeachment?
Well, I testified at the hearing, and I was the only Republican witness, and I opposed the impeachment.
Okay.
Which I think was an abuse, and I also think the second impeachment was an abuse. But having been with one foot on the media side for 30 years, it has changed in that social media has unleashed a lot of that rage.
Yeah.
And this book talks about rage. All countries, well, not all countries, but many countries are the product of revolution. And revolutions are caused by rage. And our revolution was caused by rage. That's what the Boston Tea Party was rage. The problem is it's easier to start a revolution than to end it. And the reason we succeeded is we had 2 absolute genius figures, among many. But Thomas Paine was sort of the righteous rage of the revolution. But it was James Madison who was the pious logic. So Paine knew what it would take to move a people to rebellion. And it was Madison that knew what it would take to move a revolution to a republic. And it was the combination of those 2 characters.
Yeah, they were totally opposite, those guys.
There could not be more different.
Could not. All right, Professor, it's a fascinating book, Rage and the Republic, out now. Good to see you. Thanks for coming on, and we'll talk again soon, I hope.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut hosted today's public forum and joins us now.
My next source here tonight sits on.
So shout out to Bill O'Reilly for having the professor on. Bill O'Reilly likes to have his facts straight. He likes to have good resources. So I appreciate him inviting him on. All right, let's move over to the next clip.
Hey folks, if you're like me, sometimes you hear those pitter-patter feet up in the attic or down in the
Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor. It is only fitting that Speaker Pelosi would join us for tonight's 80th anniversary. Please welcome Representative Pelosi.
Thank you, Madam President. That has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Thank you, President Barry, for your kind introduction, and thank you to the board of the Washington Press Club Foundation for the honor of being with you this evening. Let us congratulate tonight's honoree, Susan Page, who is receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award, and Melissa Burke, who is receiving the David Lynch Award for Regional Journalism. Susan, I'm delighted to join you on 80 years of this annual dinner. 80 years of this dinner. 80 years is truly a remarkable milestone. In Congress, we respect 80 years as that much longevity as institutional memory. Soon after I was, let me just go. These pages are sticking together. I'm sticking to my notes because if I don't, I would go very long. You don't want that. The Women's National Press Club, as was mentioned, was created at a time when women journalists were excluded from professional opportunities, excluded from, shut out from press rooms, denied recognition that they were earning. But your founders did not accept the status quo. They organized, they persisted. They fought for access, for credibility, for a seat at the table, and they proved again and again that women belong there all along. And that is an applause line. And they proved that women belong there all along. I can identify with that because when I first ran for leadership, the men said, who said she could run? Poor babies, poor babies. Soon after I was elected, it was my honor to host a retirement dinner for the legendary Washington journalist, Mary McCrory. Now, some of you are too young to remember Mary. Many of you are too young. But at that dinner that we had in the Capitol, my office was the leader's office, but that had been the office that Tip O'Neill used as speaker. So Mary loved that we were in Tip's suite to honor her. Tip came over, Ted Kennedy came over, and he talked about what Mary had done at the Washington Star when she started out. John Lewis was there, and he said Mary used her pen as a sword to fight for civil rights and other things. Father Drynan was there, and also was Barney Frank. And we all made the point that the Pope must have been very happy that Father Drynan, a Jesuit member of Congress, Pope insisted that he leave office and was replaced by one of the first gay men to serve in the Congress of the United States, Barney Frank. And Father Drynan was there and saying, we're getting ready for the resurrection. That's what he said. Mary was recognized as one of the first queens of journalism. And you know what? When she started out, they said, we don't want you making any fuss. You know, she was new, a new woman. We don't want you making any trouble, any fuss. She said, well, that's exactly what I came here to do. And, in fact, that's what I intend to do. And she won a Pulitzer Prize. So I bring up Mary McCrory because she's just one of many women who were leaders at that time, and I was honored to honor her upon her retirement in the Capitol of the United States. Just a few years later, then, I was elected speaker and had the privilege of addressing the dinner shortly thereafter. I remember the evening very well for the history and the progress we had both made. Tonight, we honor the contribution of women in journalism. All right. Okay, you're out there. I hear you now. And those who have covered Congress across generations. And all of us eagerly await the humor of Kat and Madeline, which I know will be done in the spirit of bipartisanship. Because in our democracy, defense of the First Amendment can and should be bipartisan. I always say the press is the guardian of our democracy, and that's how I view it. One such guardian is my friend Jimmy Lai, a British Hong Kong journalist imprisoned in Beijing for printing the truth. At the request of Jimmy's family, I asked Speaker Johnson to call out this matter of Jimmy's persecution when he spoke to the House of Commons a couple of weeks ago. This was a big...
All right, I didn't want to watch much of that. Some people were saying that you can tell Nancy Pelosi is starting to struggle with her public speaking, and she seemed a little bit incoherent. I didn't want to watch much of that, so we're going to jump over to some CNN polls real quick, and then we're going to go to a Christian clip.
Grip, stability, precision. That's the essence of driving. Lawfin.
Do you wish daily mass was more accessible? Do you feel disconnected from your faith during the week?
What you see is just 43% of Americans actually do believe that Donald Trump is committed to free and fair elections. The clear majority, 56%, say no.
With me now, CNN's chief data analyst, Harry Hinton. He is running the numbers on Americans' faith in the election system. Harry, do Americans trust Donald Trump when it comes to running the elections?
No, they trust him about as much as they trust him to be modest. I mean, just take a look at these numbers right here. I think this gives the game away. Trump committed to free and fair elections. This is among all adults. What you see is just 43% of Americans actually do believe that Donald Trump is committed to free and fair elections. The clear majority, 56%, say no. They do not believe that Donald Trump is committed to free and fair elections. And I will note it is the opposite for the Democratic Party, where you see the majority of Americans believe the Democratic Party is committed to free and fair elections, but they do not trust Donald Trump when it comes to his commitment to free and fair elections.
And maybe perhaps he keeps lying about the 2020 election that he lost. What about how independents are seeing this?
Okay, so you see this majority right here who say that Donald Trump is not committed to free and fair elections. And among independents, it is even worse. Take a look here. This is a group that Donald Trump has really been struggling with. And when it comes to his commitment to free and fair elections, they absolutely believe he is not. We're talking about 2 in 3 independents say no, Donald Trump is not committed to free and fair elections. We're talking about just a third of independents believe that Donald Trump is committed to free and fair elections. They will view his current comment very negatively, and this course builds upon their continuing distrust and their deepening distrust of Donald Trump as Johnson president overall, and specifically this question when it comes to his commitment to free and fair elections.
That number is like, I don't know, well, but let's look overall. Who do Americans overall trust when it comes to running elections?
You know, this whole thing Donald Trump wants to take the running elections from the local communities, the local government, to the national government. But here's the thing, Americans believe that the elections in 2024 that will run in their community will run very well. We're talking about 69% of Americans say that the elections, in fact, in 2024 will run very well in their community. Compare that to just 43% of Americans who say that they will run very well in the United States. This idea that you're going to take local power away and give it to the federal government is a terrible idea for the American people when just 22% at this point view the federal government favorably, and we have trust levels in the federal government at all-time lows.
What is fascinating about this is that Republicans have historically said states' rights and don't put the federal government. Now we're saying the president said
Donald Trump put a lot of things on his particularly American people, most certainly not.
All right, President
Trump is doubling down on his calls to essentially throw out constitutional reforms of it and take over operations in more than a dozen states across the country. He first said this on a podcast, and then he was asked to clarify. And he did clarify, it appears, defending his call for Republicans to nationalize elections, saying, here's the quote, the federal government should get involved. At least it appears in the places where he doesn't like how the votes have turned out in the past, like the election he lost in 2020.
Take a look at Detroit. Take a look at Pennsylvania. Take a look at Philadelphia. You go take a look at Atlanta. Look at some of the places that horrible corruption on elections. And the federal government should not allow that. The federal government should get involved. These are agents of the federal government to count the votes. If they can't count the votes legally and honestly, then somebody else should take over.
CNN's Kevin Liptak is at the White House for us with much more. So what now, Kevin?
Yeah, and it is just so striking to hear the president kind of redouble these calls to nationalize elections, particularly because a few hours beforehand, the White House had tried walking it back, and many Republicans said that they didn't agree with the president on this idea, in no small part because the Constitution says that states administer elections that are governed by local municipalities. Remember President Trump first raised this in a podcast interview with Dan Bongino. He said that Republicans ought to nationalize the voting for Republican officials to take over voting procedures in 15 states, although he didn't name them. When Caroline Caroline Leavitt, Secretary was asked about that yesterday before the president appeared in the Oval Office. She said that he had actually been talking about this pending legislation on Capitol Hill that would require people to produce photo IDs before they register to vote. Listen to what Caroline Leavitt said.
So many stars are in the making of SCAD. Students like you, finding their inspiration in...
Which is president Trump when he says Republicans want to nationalize voting. What does that look like? What the president was referring to is the SAFE Act, which is a huge common sense piece of legislation that Republicans have supported, that President Trump is committed to signing into law during his term. He spoke to the Speaker directly about that yesterday, about the need to get that bill on the floor for a vote, because it provides very common sense measures for voting in our country, such as voter ID.
Now, President Trump actually made no mention of the SAFE Act, either in a podcast interview or in the Oval Office a few hours later. He said, quote, I want to see elections be honest, and if the state can't run an election, I think the people behind me should do something about it, referring to the members of Congress who are joining him there in the Oval Office. All of this seems to point to a broader effort by the president to sow distrust in elections the first months before the midterms in November. All of it, of course, undergirded by his unsubstantiated claims that elections are rigged.
That's right. Kevin, thank you so much for keeping track of it. Joining me right now is Ben Ginsburg. He has long been a top alert on politics. More in 2020 that the GOP was destroying itself by perpetuating false claims about election fraud. It has been too long, Ben. It's good to see you. Thank you for coming in. Trump now saying, and doubling down, ask clarify, his theory is that he wants Republicans to voting in 15 states, he said. The White House tried to walk it back, and he essentially said, believe me when I said what I meant. And he's naming states now. He talked about Detroit, he talked about Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, of course, also talking about Atlanta and Georgia. From your perspective, how bonkers is this, or how real could it be?
Well, I think it's wrong. Right? They've had lots of opportunities to present evidence to back up the president's election. And in 64 court cases after the 2020 election, ample opportunities in suits filed before the 2024 election, no proof, no evidence has come out. You know, it's striking that they would go in and subpoena, do an FBI raid of Fulton County for the 2020 election from Trump lost, and not do one for 2024, which he won. So presumably, even the president recognizes that Fulton County fixed its problems.
So that is exactly something that I heard when I had the head of the Fulton County Commission on yesterday. He said, just so you know, no one was upset after the outcome of the 2024 election. That raid happened last week. And we talked about it more with the head of the County Commission. I want to play for you what Rob said about what was taken and what it means now.
I don't know who has those ballots. I don't know what they're doing with them. I can use my imagination and just guess what they're doing with them, but we do not know. As long as those ballots and other items pertaining to the 2020 elections were in our control, I could assure the world, more importantly, the people of Fulton County, that those ballots were safe and secure.
And now he says he cannot say that anymore. I mean, your attorney said a bunch of different counts. What do you see there?
Well, look, what this raid did was break what's known as the chain of custody.
I remember the day that I saw that raid because I got a chance to catch it live. And then also a couple hours after that, they kind of left it still running. And it was crazy because you just had everybody saying, like, why is the FBI going into, like, a ballot center? But, of course, we know why that would be happening. It's interesting that all this is happening around the midterms, but it's not by happenstance. Like, we already know what's going on here. Like, Donald Trump wants to make sure things happen fairly because he knows that the Republicans have a great... I said this. At first, I was confident, but I said, dude, it's a good chance the Republicans are going to lose the midterms just simply because what we're seeing with ICE. I'm not saying we should agree with it or we shouldn't. I'm just saying, like, it's so much access to excess. Like, it's so much that we're seeing. And people are, like, enraged. They're pissed off by it. You got them, like, dragging disabled people. And, yeah, you still have people destroying ICE property as well, like government property. But the overall feeling is that the overall vibe is that, like, people aren't feeling ICE. And I think we can tell that by Tom Homan's decision to withdraw 700 agents from there.
Which means that the ballots are kept without prying hands who might actually change material. What the FBI did here was, I think, break the chain of custody, which means the materials are subject to manipulation. Nobody's watching over them. And that also means that they were trying to bring in prosecutions as a result of this. They no doubt will fail because there are guarantees that the ballots are kept securely and they're not being manipulated.
Real quick, I mean, it's warned for other states, basically saying, you all need to prepare and see this and get ready because while the accusations might not be real, what they're doing to try to get involved in local election authority is very real. I mean, how can or should local and state election officials prepare for what could be coming if Fulton County is, Exhibit A?
Well, I have tremendous respect for local election officials who I work with a great deal. And they know that they need to be transparent with people in their communities, have open doors, let folks kick the tires of those election systems. But just one other thing that is unglued about what the president saying, those big cities that he's most worried about do not have contested congressional races that are going to decide who controls the House in 2026. He can go in and try and put people around those polling places. That's not going to impact most of the districts that will determine how he is in Congress.
Ben, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
There's a research clip going around how Arnold Schwarzenegger going on to The View, and they tried to trap him into affirming their ideology and beliefs, although he doesn't agree with it. Okay, and this completely backfired on him. It got so bad that one of the panel members on The View actually touched his arm as a way to tell him to be careful about what.
Shout out to Aaron Page, a channel favorite. We react to Aaron often. Here he has a clip of Arnold Schwarzenegger on The View, and what he's saying is that The View is trying to convince him of something that he blatantly just does not believe. He doesn't support them on their stance. And he has a different system of belief, and it just kind of gets to a point where it's almost out of control, but it seems to calm back down. So shout out to Aaron Page for covering this. Let's take a listen.
What he was saying. I want to show y'all this. I thought this was absolutely insane, but it was good on his part to speak. What he feels is the truth about the country and actually the things he said makes a lot of sense when you listen to him. Okay, let's hop into this video, watch and react. Before we do me a quick favor, hit that like button for the algorithm so this video can reach more people like yourself. I truly appreciate you guys. Let's hop in.
If you were governor right now in California, how would you be handling the ongoing crisis that the state's facing?
Well, I think the most important thing is when you end up in a leadership position like that is that you are inclusive and that you work together with everybody. And so it means that you have to work together with local government, the state government, and the federal government. You have to work together rather than fighting each other. Fighting each other's agendas and all this. That doesn't do good to anybody. And so that's number one. Number two, the most important thing is to create immigration reform. Because all this is happening because we don't have immigration reform. For decades now, this country has needed immigration reform, which means that we recognize the fact that there's people in the south of America that come north to work, and that we therefore should supply them with enough visas so they can come, because we need those workers. So this is the problem, because then we would know who is here, we will be able to get rid of criminal elements that are here, and all this stuff, so we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in right now. So this is my way of saying always, Democrats and Republicans have to come together and solve this issue if they really want to be public servants. If they want to be party servants, be party hacks, and be tied to that ideology, then it won't happen. But if you want to make this country better, and if you want to improve this country, improve the situation of people's lives, and bring the prices down, all this, you will go and serve the people of America. This is what it is. If you're a public servant, that's what I would do if I'm governor.
Okay, so whether or not you may think that Arnold Schwarzenegger was a good governor when he was governor of California, what he just said made a lot of sense. Okay, and that both parties need to work together. We should not have such chaos amongst the parties. It shouldn't be this chaotic. But right now it seems that if you are on one side, the other side is not willing to work no matter what. And I think that's part of the problem. Now he said that we should have a reform to the immigration policy and that everyone should have visas so that way we can see who's actually living inside the country and criminals or not. And I don't see how you can actually have an issue with that, and that people that don't have visas, unfortunately, will not be able to stay in the country until you can get a visa. So that way we know who's in the country. Every U.S. citizen, by the time you turn 18, has to have a license. The same thing should be the same for immigrants. All right, now they're going to try to trap him in his words. They're going to try to kind of push him to affirm their ideology, and it completely backfires. I'm going to show you all that. Let's check it out. This is crazy.
That's what I would do if I'm governor.
But as an immigrant yourself, you are an immigrant. You're an immigrant in this country. Did you have a visceral reaction to what they're doing, what ISIS is doing when you see the videos of it?
Well, I tell you, as an immigrant, I'm so proud and happy that I was embraced by the American people like that. I mean, imagine they came over the age of 21 with absolutely nothing, and then create a career like that. I mean, no other country in the world could do that. Every single thing, if it's my bodybuilding career, if it's my acting career, becoming governor, the beautiful family that I've created, all of this is because of America. And this is why I'm so happy to see firsthand that this is the greatest country in the world, and these are the opportunity.
Look at her face. Look at her face. She did not like that answer. Okay. I thought that was a good answer. You know what? Hearing someone that even though he's not a governor today, just hearing someone say good things about the country is rare. You rarely hear anyone say anything about the good things that America provides. And if we can be completely honest, being citizens in America, in the United States, we have a lot of freedom, right? There's a lot of good things about America. In other countries, it's not the same, right? Yeah, we have problems with the healthcare. Yeah, we have problems with the economy. Every country does. But overall, I still don't see a better country that I would rather go to than America, the United States. And that's the truth. We have it pretty good here. Okay. Even though there's a lot of craziness going on. Look, it's about crazy. Watch this. And at one point, Grandma's rap is on. And you don't rap someone on like that unless you're trying to warn them. Like, watch how she raps on after he really starts talking about the situation. Let's check it out.
And because I'm such a proud American, a proud immigrant, I was asked to do on July 4th a big speech, the keynote speech at Mount Vernon, the George Washington University, where he lived and all that, to celebrate the 250th anniversary of America, existence of America. That will be the speech that asked as an immigrant, and there will be 7,000 people there, and there will be people that will be sworn in and will become citizens. That's great celebration. I just think the world is a great kind of history that you have immigrants in America, but the key thing also is at the same time that we got to do things legal. That is the important thing. We got to do things legal.
Did you hear one of gas? Let's rewind this because it sounded like gas and said we have to do things legal. He says legal. Somebody on the panel gas. Let's listen to this real quick.
In America, but the key thing also is at the same time that we got to do things legal. That is the important thing. We got to do things legal. Those people that are doing illegal things in America, the foreigners, they are not smart. Because when you come to America, you're a guest. And you behave like a guest. When I go to someone's house, then I'm a guest, and I will do everything I can. Keep things clean, and to make my day, do everything the rest of the
Look at the arm. Look at the hand. Look at the hand. Why would she? There's no other reason for someone to grab somebody's arm like that unless they're trying to get you. It's not a sentimental moment right now, right? He's not being sentimental. He already had that moment a couple minutes ago or a second ago. He was talking about his own, the things that he has done because of America, the good things. They didn't grab his arm. That would have been a perfect moment to reassure him by touching his arm. No, she didn't. He was talking about the truth about immigration. The truth about it. They didn't like it.
Right to do rather than committing a crime or doing something like that. That doesn't really work in society. I think the important thing is when you become an immigrant, you think about, I go to America because I'm going to use America for the great opportunities that America has. Education, jobs, family, all those kind of things. Then you think about, okay, if I get all those things from America, then I have to give something back. Now, you have a responsibility as an immigrant to give back to America, to pay back to America, and to go and do something for your community for no money whatsoever. Give something back to the program, Special Olympics, or whatever it is.
Here's a hot take. If you have a message inside you that people are meant to hear, it'll never make the impact that it truly deserves until you
have one thing, an audience. The best way to build an audience and a platform that amplifies your message is not a book, a podcast, a newsletter, none of that. It's landing a TEDx talk. And here's why. Because the TEDx YouTube channel has over 41 million subscribers. It's the biggest stage on the planet. So all it takes is one 15-minute talk to build a massive audience. One talk to position yourself as a credible, authoritative leader. One talk that can lead to podcasts, book deals, interviews, media, press, coaching clients, social followers. One talk to raise more money for your cause, grow your business, become a force of nature. I speak from experience. 13 years ago, I got on that stage, had never spoken before in my life. I watched that talk at 1,000 views, 5,000 views, 10,000 views, 20,000 views, and that's when... Now by show of screams, who here is their very first free day?
Conroy is the guest, and he was a successful Victoria real estate agent, but he gave up that comfortable lifestyle, hoping to make a difference in the lives of...
Don't forget, there's 90% of the people who come here are trying to do the right thing. And a lot of what's happening right now is people getting snatched who shouldn't be snatched out of the country, people who have visas, people who have all those things. So we want all the right things. We don't want people who are doing that stuff.
They are much likely to commit crime in this country than actually American-born citizens. And the other thing I just wanted to say is that Governor Newsom did not ask for the National Guard to come to the federal government to come to California. There are 9,000 local law enforcement officers in California. Did he really...
Look, this is a whole other issue because remember, the National Guard is under the governor's supervision. But, for instance, when the National Guard was sent to Iraq during the Iraq War, I was not the one that said, oh yeah, go to Iraq. The Bush administration came and said, we need those people. And they need the resources, we need the equipment, we need the weapons, we need the vehicles to shoot through Iraq. And then the point I say is it's very important that we work together. It doesn't matter who's asking whom. The bottom line is we work together in order to solve the problem.
So they say that 90% of the people that are coming into the country are trying to do it the right way. Now, I don't know the exact numbers of how many people are coming in legally and illegally, but the bottom line is if you come to the country illegally, you are breaking the law. It doesn't matter. Our asylum, it does not include you coming to the country illegally without any government.
Yeah, see, that's the point where people mess, and you have so many people saying like, well, you know, people come to the country, and they're here and they're minding their business and they're not doing anything wrong. They don't deserve to leave. And it's like, I wouldn't say that I don't disagree with that. I've tell people this, I'm like, as someone who fought for the country, I don't disagree with that. But it's like Aaron said, it's like the way that you come. So if you come the wrong way initially, that's what they're focusing on more so now with this administration. And that's been their main focus, is how you entered.
Assistance. So if someone comes into the country with no government assistance, they legally enter the country, they should be deported. This isn't coming from my words, because I'm not a member of the government. Okay, this is coming from Barack Obama. Let me show you what he said back when he was president about illegal immigrants. Okay, let's check it.
There are those in the immigrants' rights community who have argued passionately that we should simply provide those who are illegally legal status, or at least ignore the laws of the books and put an end to deportation until we have better laws. And often this argument is framed in moral terms. Why should we punish people who are just trying to earn a living? I recognize the sense of compassion that drives this argument. But I believe such an indiscriminate approach would be both unwise and unfair. It would suggest to those thinking about coming here illegally that there will be no repercussions for such a decision. And this could lead to a surge in more illegal immigration. It would also ignore the millions of people around the world who are waiting in line to come here illegally. Ultimately, our nation, like all nations, has the right and obligation to control its borders and set laws for residency and citizenship. And no matter how decent they are, no matter their reasons, the 11 million who wrote these laws should be held accountable.
That was coming from Barack Obama. They called Barack Obama. I forgot the exact term. He was the president that deported the most illegal immigrants. It's not Donald Trump. It's Barack. Okay. The problem is that unfortunately, just like Arnold Schwarzenegger said, we don't work together. Problems occur. They're using this. The Democrats, liberals, they're using this as a way to come against Donald Trump, as a way to get citizens to be against Donald Trump. They're using it. Donald Trump is doing the exact same thing that Barack Obama did. Barack Obama did more of it. There were, I think, 59 people that unfortunately lost their lives due to ICE during Barack Obama's term. 59 people. They went and did a ride-along with Barack Obama, the news, when they were doing deportation. So this is not a Trump thing. This is not a Republican thing. It's always been here. They're using it. And then they're throwing this stuff out on the news. People are seeing what's taking place, even though the same thing was taking place in the past. And they're using this to come against Donald Trump in his presidency. It's the truth. Unfortunately, instead of people working together, this is what they're doing. The Republicans have done this in the past as well. I'm sure. That they've used things against the Democrats in office. And they haven't joined in the Senate. Instead of fighting each other, if we work together, just like Arnold Schwarzenegger said, we would have a better outcome. Let me know how you guys feel about this video in the comment section. Go to the YouTube channel. You like it, hit that subscribe button, hit the post notification bell so you do not miss another video. My name's Aaron Page. I'll catch y'all on the next video. Until next time, I'm out.
All right, shout out to Aaron Page. A channel favorite. All right, guys, shout out to you guys. I'm going to go ahead and wrap the live stream up. I will see you guys later on for the daily live stream. Shout out to everybody that came by, hit the like button, stayed by, and supported. Shout out to all the supporters, subscribers, and mods. I will see you guys in a few hours. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Love yourselves. Love one another. Be peaceful. Tell somebody about Jesus. Peace.